Good morning, champions. Let's start with the truth we all need to face. Fear and doubt are not the enemies. They're signals. They're reminders that you're standing right at the edge of your next breakthrough. The difference between people who live average lives and those who live extraordinary ones isn't that the latter never feel fear. It's that they don't let fear make the decision for them. Every one of us has two invisible forces shaping our destiny: fear and faith. Both demand that you believe in something you can't see. Fear says, what if I fail? Faith says, what if I fly? And the truth is, you choose which one guides your life every single day. When I started on my own path, I didn't have confidence, I didn't have money, and I definitely didn't have certainty. But what I did have was a hunger to break free, to grow, to live life on my terms. And I learned something powerful along the way. The moment you stop letting fear control you is the moment you start creating the life you were born for. Because fear is a liar. Doubt is a thief. They steal your potential before you ever take the first step. But the antidote to fear isn't courage, it's action. Action breeds confidence. Confidence kills fear. You can't think your way out of fear. You've got to move your way through it. So here's what I want you to do. Whenever fear whispers, you can't do this, take one bold step forward. When doubt screams, what if you fail? Answer back, what if I succeed? Because every legend you admire, every leader who changed the world, faced fear and doubt just like you. The difference? They decided to rise anyway. Fear might visit you, but it doesn't get to stay. Doubt might knock, but it doesn't get the keys. Fear and doubt are not your enemies. They are your greatest teachers. Most people spend their lives running away from fear, avoiding anything that makes them uncomfortable. And in doing so, they miss out on the very experiences that could unlock their true potential. Fear and doubt are not there to destroy you. They are there to awaken you. They show up the moment you stand on the edge of something greater. When you're about to step into new territory, when you're ready to take a risk that could change everything, that's when fear starts to whisper. And that whisper isn't saying stop, it's saying pay attention. It's the mind's way of alerting you that you are entering a space where growth happens. Think about it. No one feels fear when they're standing still. You don't feel fear when you're doing the same thing you've done for years. You feel fear when you're about to move, when you're about to evolve, when you're about to challenge what's comfortable. That means fear isn't the problem. Staying comfortable is. Fear is simply feedback, energy that tells you something matters. It's an emotional signal that you're alive, that something at stake is worth fighting for. Doubt works in a similar way. Doubt is your mind's attempt to protect you from the unknown. It tries to convince you to stay safe, to stay certain, to avoid the possibility of failure. But here's the truth. Safety is an illusion. Growth and fulfillment don't come from staying safe. They come from moving forward in spite of uncertainty. The people who achieve greatness are not the ones who have no doubt. They're the ones who recognize their doubt, but choose to act anyway. They understand that certainty isn't something you find before taking action. It's something you create through action. When you change your relationship with fear and doubt, everything changes. Instead of seeing them as walls that block your path, you begin to see them as doors that lead you to transformation. The key is not to resist them, but to understand them. Ask yourself, what is this fear trying to tell me? What does this doubt reveal about what I believe? Often fear exposes the limits of your comfort zone, and doubt reveals the limits of your faith. Once you see that clearly, you can begin to expand both. Fear will always exist at the edge of progress. Every new level of success, every new chapter of your life will come with a new version of fear. That's because growth demands that you leave behind what you've known. The goal is not to eliminate fear, but to master it, to feel it, acknowledge it, and still move forward. To transform fear from a barrier into a compass that points you toward the areas where you need to grow the most. Imagine if you stopped treating fear as a stop sign and started treating it as a green light. What would you do? What would you create? Who would you become? The moment you stop letting fear and doubt dictate your choices, you begin to reclaim your power. Because the truth is, you can't control whether fear shows up, but you can always control what you do next. Every great leader, every innovator, every dreamer has felt fear and doubt, but instead of letting those emotions shrink them, they used them as fuel. They understood that courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. So the next time you feel afraid, don't run from it. Stand tall, breathe deep, recognize it as the sign that you're on the edge of something extraordinary. Fear and doubt don't appear when you're losing. They appear when you're about to win. They're not your enemies. They're the gatekeepers of your greatest potential. Rise above them, and you rise into the life you were truly meant to live. Every day we are faced with a simple but powerful choice: to live in fear or to live in faith. Both are invisible forces that shape our reality, and both require belief in something we cannot yet see. Fear demands that we trust in failure, pain, and disappointment. Faith, on the other hand, asks us to trust in growth, possibility, and success. The irony is that both are built on imagination. Fear imagines what could go wrong. Faith imagines what could go right. The question is, which one will you feed? Fear and faith cannot coexist in the same moment, because they pull your energy in opposite directions. Fear keeps you small, chained to the familiar, whispering that you're not enough, that the risk is too big, that the timing isn't right. Faith opens you up. It expands your vision. It reminds you that even though you can't see the whole path, you can take the next step with certainty in your heart. Choosing faith over fear doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending that challenges don't exist. It means choosing to believe that you have the strength, creativity, and resilience to overcome them. When you choose fear, you become reactive. You wait for permission, for guarantees, for the perfect conditions that never come. Fear is a master storyteller. It creates detailed, convincing scenarios of what could go wrong and convinces you that avoiding risk is the smart move. But the problem is, living in fear doesn't just protect you from pain, it also blocks you from progress. You end up protecting yourself from the very experiences that could make you stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled. Faith, on the other hand, is proactive. It's the decision to move forward even when you can't see the outcome. Faith says, I may not know how it will work out, but I trust that taking this step will lead me closer to where I'm meant to be. Faith is what allows a person to start a business with no certainty of success, to speak their truth in a world that might not understand them, to get back up after life has knocked them down. Faith isn't blind, it's visionary. It sees beyond what is and focuses on what could be. People often wait to feel confident before taking action, but confidence doesn't come before the leap, it comes after. Faith is what bridges that gap. When you act with faith, even small actions create momentum. That momentum builds evidence, and that evidence becomes confidence. Confidence, then, is just the reward of choosing faith consistently. It's not something you find, it's something you earn through courage. It's important to understand that faith is not reserved for the deeply spiritual or the endlessly optimistic. Faith is a practical tool. It's a mental discipline. It's the ability to direct your focus toward possibility instead of limitation. When you choose faith, you're not denying fear, you're deciding that fear doesn't get the final say. You acknowledge the risk, but you refuse to let it define your actions. You recognize the uncertainty, but you focus on your vision instead of your worry. Every person who has achieved something great has done so through faith. They faced moments of doubt, uncertainty, and pain, but they kept moving forward because they believed in something bigger than their fear. They believed in their vision and their purpose and the unseen power of persistence. Fear tells you to stay in the known. Faith invites you to step into the unknown and discover what you're capable of. The truth is, fear will always knock on your door. It will show up before every big opportunity, every major decision, every leap of growth. But when you choose faith, you answer that knock differently. Instead of running, you open the door, smile, and step forward anyway. Faith is not about eliminating fear. It's about trusting that what's on the other side of that fear is worth it. So today, choose faith. Choose to believe in yourself, in your vision, in the process. Choose to trust that life is not happening to you, but for you. Because when you shift your focus from fear to faith, everything changes. You stop surviving and start living. You stop doubting and start creating. You stop shrinking and start expanding. Fear limits, faith liberates. And when you live by faith, you don't just change your circumstances, you transform who you are. Action is the ultimate antidote to fear. You can't outthink it, you can't outrun it, and you can't wait for it to disappear. The only way to silence fear is through movement, through decisive, committed action. Fear thrives in stillness and uncertainty. When you sit and think about everything that could go wrong, your imagination magnifies every possibility of failure. But the moment you take even a small step forward, the fog begins to clear. You shift your energy from worry to progress, from paralysis to power. Most people wait for confidence before they take action, but that's a trap. Confidence doesn't come before action, it comes because of action. Every time you take a step despite your fear, you prove to yourself that you are capable, that you can handle discomfort, that you can face uncertainty and survive it. That proof becomes confidence. Confidence isn't built by thinking positive thoughts alone. It's built by doing hard things again and again until your mind learns that fear doesn't control you. Action transforms fear into fuel. The moment you move, your focus shifts from the problem to the solution. You start to feel momentum building. You start to realize that progress, no matter how small, feels better than perfection ever could. When you act, you take control of your state. You go from being a victim of your emotions to being a creator of your destiny. The fastest way to change how you feel is to change what you do. Fear loves hesitation. It feeds on indecision. The more time you spend thinking about what could go wrong, the louder fear's voice becomes. That's why successful people act quickly. They know that clarity comes from engagement, not contemplation. You don't find the perfect plan sitting on the sidelines. You discover it in motion, through experience, through feedback, through learning what works and what doesn't. Every great success story began with imperfect action. Taking action doesn't mean you won't fail. It means you're willing to learn. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the process that leads to it. Every time you take a step, you gather information. You see what resonates, what falls short, what can be improved. Each failure refines your strategy and strengthens your resilience. When you understand that, you stop fearing mistakes and start seeing them as part of the journey. The people who achieve the most aren't the ones who make the fewest mistakes. They're the ones who keep moving no matter what. Action also builds identity. When you act courageously, you start to see yourself as courageous. When you take initiative, you begin to see yourself as a leader. When you keep going despite doubt, you start to see yourself as unstoppable. You become what you repeatedly do. Each action reinforces a new story about who you are, one that's stronger than fear's narrative. And once you start to identify as someone who takes bold action, fear loses its grip on you. Many people spend years waiting for the right moment. They tell themselves they'll start when they feel ready, when the timing is better, when they have more experience or money or support. But that moment never comes. There is no perfect time, only the time you choose to begin. The right moment is created by action, not by waiting. The sooner you move, the sooner you learn, and the sooner you grow into the person you're meant to become. The truth is, movement creates mastery. Every expert was once a beginner who dared to start. Every confident person was once uncertain but acted anyway. You can read every book, attend every seminar, and plan every detail, but nothing replaces action. Action turns theory into experience and fear into power. So if you're waiting for the fear to fade before you start, stop waiting. The fear will fade only when you move through it. Start small if you need to, but start. Make that call. Take that step. Say yes to that opportunity. Each action you take sends a message to your mind that says, I am in control. I am stronger than my fear. And once you build that pattern, fear no longer holds the same weight. Action is freedom. It breaks the cycle of overthinking and reclaims your momentum. The moment you move, you start to lead your life instead of reacting to it. Fear will always exist, but when you act despite it, you take back your power. Because courage isn't about having no fear, it's about moving forward even when fear is present. And every time you do, fear shrinks, confidence grows, and you rise. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the willingness to move forward in spite of it. Many people misunderstand courage. They think it's something reserved for heroes, leaders, or extraordinary individuals born with a special kind of bravery. But courage isn't about being fearless. It's about feeling the fear, acknowledging it, and still taking action. Every person who has ever achieved greatness felt fear along the way. The difference is they didn't let that fear make their decisions for them. They understood that fear is natural, but submission to fear is a choice. When you face something that scares you, a challenge, a risk, a new beginning, your mind instantly tries to protect you. It reminds you of every possible outcome that could go wrong, every reason why you shouldn't take that step. This is human nature. Our brains are wired to seek safety and certainty. But the irony is that staying safe often keeps us stuck. True courage begins the moment you decide that growth is more important than comfort, that the life you want is worth the temporary discomfort of fear. Every courageous act, no matter how big or small, starts with a decision. It's the decision to say, I won't let fear control me. That doesn't mean the fear disappears. It means you move forward while carrying it. The most successful people in the world are not fearless. They're simply willing to act while afraid. They know that on the other side of fear lies freedom, the courage to take a leap, to speak your truth, to stand up for what matters, to start again after failure. These moments define who you are far more than the moments when things feel easy. Fear has a way of magnifying itself when you avoid it. The more you hesitate, the more it grows. But when you confront it, when you walk straight toward the thing that scares you, you start to realize that most of what you feared was an illusion. The situation itself is rarely as dangerous as the story you told yourself about it. Courage allows you to see through that illusion. It's like turning on the light in a dark room. You realize that the monster you imagined was never really there. Courage also creates momentum. Once you take one brave step, the next one becomes easier. You build evidence in your mind that you can handle uncertainty. Each act of courage strengthens your belief in yourself, and that belief becomes the foundation of unstoppable confidence. The people who seem fearless have simply trained themselves to act faster than their fear. They feel the anxiety, the tension, the uncertainty, and they move anyway. That consistent pattern of movement rewires their mind to associate fear, not with paralysis, but with opportunity. Think about the moments in your own life when you showed courage. Maybe it was speaking in front of others, standing up for yourself, starting something new, or walking away from something that no longer served you. At the time, it probably felt terrifying. But once you did it, didn't you feel stronger, lighter, more alive? That's because courage expands your sense of self. Each time you do something that fear tried to stop you from doing, you grow into a larger version of who you are. You start to realize that fear is not a wall, it's a door, and courage is the key. The truth is, courage isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet and steady. It's getting out of bed after a tough day. It's making the hard decision when no one is watching. It's choosing to believe in yourself when doubt screams the loudest. Real courage happens in the small moments, those daily choices where you could retreat, but instead you take a stand for your future. So don't wait for fear to disappear before you act. Don't wait to feel ready, because readiness rarely comes. Courage is built in motion, not in waiting. Every time you step into discomfort, you train your mind to trust your strength. You begin to see fear for what it really is, a test, not a threat. You stop running from fear and start walking through it, realizing it was never as powerful as you thought. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's mastery over it. It's the quiet conviction that says, I'm scared, but I'll do it anyway. And when you live that way, when you act despite fear, you become unstoppable. Because fear may visit, but it can no longer control the course of your life. The moment you choose courage, you reclaim your freedom and step fully into the person you were meant to be. Growth lives outside the comfort zone. It's a truth that most people intellectually understand, but few truly embrace. Comfort feels safe, predictable, and familiar. It's where we can relax, make minimal effort, and avoid the unknown. But while comfort feels good in the short term, it is the enemy of transformation. If you want more out of life, more success, more fulfillment, more power, you must be willing to leave behind what is easy and step into what is challenging. Every single step of real growth occurs when you push beyond the boundaries of what you already know. When you stay within your comfort zone, your mind and body remain in a predictable rhythm. You don't feel stress, anxiety, or fear. On the surface, it feels peaceful, but it's a false sense of security. True development requires tension. It requires experiences that stretch your abilities, force you to confront your weaknesses, and challenge your assumptions about what you can handle. The very things that make you uncomfortable, the uncertainty, the risk, the fear of failure, are the things that expand your capacity. Stepping outside your comfort zone doesn't mean recklessness. It means intentional challenge. It means setting goals that feel slightly impossible and pursuing them with relentless determination. Growth demands that you take risks, and risk always brings a sense of vulnerability. Vulnerability feels uncomfortable, but it is also where learning happens. Every time you confront a fear,
make a difficult decision, or try something new. You gain knowledge, strength, and resilience. You discover what you are truly capable of.
Think about any major breakthrough in your life, no matter how small. It required stepping into the unknown. The first time you spoke up in a group, the first time you asked for an opportunity, the first time you faced rejection, it was uncomfortable. It was scary. Yet each of those moments taught you more than comfort ever could. Growth is not found in repetition, it's found in challenge. The more you practice stepping outside your comfort zone, the easier it becomes to handle bigger challenges and seize bigger opportunities. The comfort zone also keeps your mindset limited. When you only do what you know, your world becomes smaller. Your habits, thinking, and perspectives stagnate. Growth requires expanding both your skills and your beliefs. By confronting situations that stretch your mind and body, you develop adaptability and creativity. You begin to see possibilities that were invisible when you stayed in the familiar. You learn to embrace uncertainty, and uncertainty becomes a source of opportunity rather than fear. There is also a psychological component to growth outside the comfort zone. Your brain is wired to seek rewards and avoid pain. Comfort feels rewarding because it is predictable, but the true rewards, the deep satisfaction, the pride, the sense of accomplishment, come from overcoming discomfort. Growth occurs when you intentionally place yourself in situations where the outcome is not guaranteed. Every challenge you face builds neural pathways that strengthen your resilience, increase your confidence, and prepare you for even greater obstacles. Most people avoid discomfort because it requires courage. They settle for small wins rather than chasing extraordinary outcomes. But growth is proportional to the size of the challenge. The larger the risk, the greater the learning, the greater the personal evolution. That is why extraordinary individuals embrace discomfort. They know that every uncomfortable step is a step closer to realizing their potential. The key is consistent practice. You don't need to leap into life-threatening situations to grow. Start small. Take incremental steps that push your limits. Speak up in a meeting, take on a new responsibility, start a project that scares you, or approach a challenge you've been avoiding. Each of these actions stretches your comfort zone just enough to spark growth. Over time, these small steps compound, expanding your capacity and your confidence. Ultimately, growth lives outside your comfort zone because life does not reward stagnation. It rewards action, courage, and persistence. The people who achieve extraordinary success, happiness, and fulfillment are the ones willing to face uncertainty, challenge themselves, and embrace the uncomfortable. The familiar may feel safe, but it will never make you exceptional. True power, true achievement, and true transformation are waiting for you just beyond the edge of comfort. And the only way to reach them is to take that first brave step into the unknown. When you rise above fear and doubt, you don't just change your own life. You create a ripple effect that inspires and empowers everyone around you. Too often, people see personal growth as a solitary journey, something that only benefits the individual. But the truth is, your actions, your courage, and your willingness to step into the unknown have a profound impact on the people in your life. When you choose to face your fears, confront your doubts, and take bold action, you become a living example that others can look to. Your life becomes proof that it's possible to overcome obstacles, break limitations, and rise to your highest potential. In every community, organization, or family, there are people who feel stuck, uncertain, or afraid. They may not even express it, but they watch, they observe, and they notice. When they see someone rise above fear and doubt, it sends a powerful message. If they can do it, maybe I can too. Your courage and determination become contagious. By stepping forward despite uncertainty, you give others permission to take steps they might have been too scared to take. You become a beacon, showing that growth is not only achievable but necessary for fulfillment. Rising above fear and doubt also creates leadership by example. People are inspired not by what you say but by what you do. Words can motivate temporarily, but consistent action demonstrates possibility and builds trust. When you act despite your fears, you show that fear is not a weakness. It is a natural part of growth that can be managed, controlled, and even used as fuel. Others begin to see that courage is not a rare trait reserved for a few. It is a skill that can be developed. Your example can awaken the potential in people who may have given up on themselves, helping them to believe in their ability to rise as well. Your personal triumphs also carry the power to change culture and expectations. In a workplace, a community, or a family, one person's willingness to act despite fear can shift the norms for everyone else. When someone consistently chooses courage over hesitation, doubt over indecision, it establishes a standard. Others begin to question their own limitations and expand their expectations of what is possible. Your actions create a new narrative, a narrative of possibility, resilience, and empowerment. It's important to recognize that the influence of rising above fear and doubt is not always immediate or obvious. Sometimes the impact is subtle. A friend quietly gaining the courage to speak up, a colleague inspired to take on a new project, a family member finding the confidence to pursue their dreams. Even if no one openly acknowledges your influence, the ripple effects continue. Every person you touch by example carries a piece of that inspiration forward, multiplying its effect far beyond what you can see. By conquering your fears, you also demonstrate the importance of responsibility. You show that it's not fear itself that defines life, but how you respond to it. You teach others that self-mastery and personal accountability are achievable. When you rise, you invite others to rise with you, not out of obligation, but out of possibility. People begin to see that they too can confront their own doubts, make bold choices, and take ownership of their lives. Ultimately, rising above fear and doubt transforms more than just your life. It transforms your world. Your courage lights a path for others to follow. Your resilience becomes a roadmap for those searching for hope. Your victories, your actions, and your willingness to face discomfort all become teaching moments, demonstrating that extraordinary growth is available to anyone willing to step beyond the familiar. The more you embrace your own power, the more you empower others to embrace theirs. When you rise above fear and doubt, you do not rise alone. You lift others with you. You prove that potential is not limited, that courage is contagious, and that every step forward can inspire 1,000 others to take theirs. Your life becomes a testament to possibility, and in that way the act of rising is not just personal, it is profoundly, beautifully, and powerfully transformative for the world around you. Today I challenge you to do something that scares you. Make that call, start that project, speak that truth. Because the real growth, the real magic happens beyond your comfort zone. When you rise above fear and doubt, you don't just change your life, you give permission to everyone around you to rise too. So stand tall, breathe deep. You are stronger than your fear, you are greater than your doubt. And your destiny, your extraordinary life, is waiting on the other side of both. Now go out there and rise above fear and doubt.